Hi everyone, my name is Paul Fisher from the University of Florida IFAS Extension, and welcome to our 5 Tips for Horticulture series. Today's presenter is Dr. Kay Jeong, and Kay is a horticultural specialist who has worked in the growing media and plant nutrition field for many years. And I've known Kay since she was a researcher at North Carolina State University, where she got her PhD with Dr. Paul Nelson. And then she's gone on to work in the commercial horticulture substrate industry with support for both commercial greenhouse and nursery growers and also with companies who are producing growing media substrates for retail consumers. So I asked Kay, because of her diverse background, if she could talk to us today about what growers and retailers should look for in a high quality substrate. And so welcome, Kay, and thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Great. The topic for today, Kay, is going to be about substrate quality. So I'll hand things over to you.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about the quality of the substrate products today. So yeah, before we talk about quality, what is the quality substrate product? What is the best soil? So like people will have different expectations and different aspects depending on if you're homegrown, home gardener, or if you're professional commercial growers. Depending on what you're going to do with that product, the quality might mean differently. Paul, what is the best soil in your mind?
I think it's the one that feels really good when you put your feet into it and it feels really nice in between your toes.
Yeah, like the baby fits in the photo. I put the photo for the safety. Safety is one of the quality. We wanna deliver the safe and the good quality product to our consumers and customers. And also it should look really great. So you can see in the middle, dark soil between your fingers. That should look really good. It should not like trashy, or it should not like look like mulchy. So depending on the customers or the retail consumers, they have very specific expectations they are looking for. And also, your sensory, you can smell it. If we smell really bad, it's not a good quality too. So people are using their sensors, feeling, smelling, and looking, visuals. So those are all the aspects of quality of the substrate product. And the most important thing is a performance. That product should be, the good growing media or substrate for your plant roots. So you can see the photo of the little seedlings in the happy soil. So I have been in the growing media industry for like almost 10 years after my research at university. So it has been really exciting, career, to be in the industry. How to design a quality substrate product. That's a very interesting. It's more bigger spectrum to understand and to learn out of the lab, from the research aspects. Consistency, availability, and the cost effectiveness. Those are the major parameters you should understand to design a quality substrate. What's the consistency? Why we need to deliver the consistent product to our professional growers? Because over years they are producing products, and they adjust or develop their cultural practice based on their growing media. If there is wet grower, dry grower, the media should be consistent over time and over years. It shouldn't be seasonal, or it shouldn't be annual. It should be very consistent. The consistent product starts with a consistent raw material quality. If you don't have, raw material, consistent quality over time, you cannot design the consistent product of, in the bag. So all consistency starts from the raw material. And also you need to consider about the manufacturing capability. If the capability of operation or manufacturing process is not there, even though you have a great, consistent raw material, you cannot blend consistent product every time you need to produce. So the raw material quality and also the manufacturing capability, those are very key points to keep the consistency of the product. When you have those two parameters in place, we do have, you should have quality assurance program. I have been working with two different, substrate companies so far. Each company, not only where I have been working for, every a growing media company has quality assurance programs. Very, very good standard, programs they have been established and still improving, and they are using it every day. They are measuring a chemical, physical properties, to keep those, quality within the specification. The specification means, specific characteristics of raw material and also finished product. So that the specifications and also quality programs on the production sites are the tool to keep the consistency of the product. The second, availability. Let's say you have fantastic, raw material and a fantastic manufacturing capability, but if you cannot get the raw material in the fall, only spring, it's hard. Where the raw material is coming from, is it regionally available or nationally available? It's really important to understand. I have seen, great biochar material, like a biochar raw material, but that's very regionally available, So even though it has a great characteristics, great physical chemical properties, we couldn't, introduce that into a national brand product because the availability was the limit. Cost effective. There is amazing raw material, such as the fertilizer product or even wetting agents or, value-added raw materials available out there in the market already. Great science, great trial outcomes, great benefits, but we cannot introduce those to design the quality substrates because it's too expensive sometimes. So if you ask me to design the best substrate, maybe you cannot afford that. So the cost effectiveness is very important to keep in mind when you design a quality substrate.
How do you see differences from one part of the US or Canada to another in terms of the types of substrates and what kind of components are available?
Yes, it's a really good question. I have one good example. No, maybe two or three. Rice hull, composted rice hull. That raw material is very, very available in the South Central states. So we do use that raw material, very qualified raw material in some custom blend products. The reason why we are using in the specific products only for that regional customers, because that rice hull is not available in Maine or in Oregon. So we cannot use the raw material nationally. Another raw material is pumice. Pumice is a well-known aggregate in the West, but for the cost effectiveness and availability, we don't deliver that promised raw material to Orlando or Florida. So there is some metrics that we need to consider to design the quality substrate. Mushroom spent compost, that's one also locally available raw material. It's a very rich, very good organic matter to keep in the, to add into the finished product. But you should be very lucky to have the supplier close to the manufacturing site. Yeah, that's another one too. These are some, photos I put together. What does the quality control lab does, These photos are taken from, different companies, different locations. So on top three, those are the test method to measure the chemical properties, such as pH and EC. Those are very critical parameters to measure the quality of the product. As you may all know, pH is a very important parameters to provide the optimum, the root zone for your specific crops. Some crops require high pH and some crops require low, or most of the crops will be happy with our general optimum pH range. So depending on what the growers or what they are growing, we can design. But the important thing is we need to keep that specific pH range, consistently. So that's why we are monitoring and measuring, those two parameters in terms of chemical properties. There are different ways to extract the substrate leachate. So like you can see in the middle on top, that's like a 2-to-1 method, and the third one is like extraction method with by using the vacuuming process. So depending on company, they have their own standard method. So when you review like a pH EC data from some commercial substrate company, you need to understand what test method they are using too. Not only growing media company, but if we use a commercial lab for your pH EC test, the test method is very important to understand what they are using. And the bottom three photos are presenting, the different types of physical property test method. On the left, that's you can see a big course, like a screen on top, to pour, the loose growing media through that screen and to fill the bottom, like a pipe, bottom container, to measure the bulk density. So the bulk density and moisture contents, the air, and also there is some test method to measure like air capacity and water holding capacity. Those are very important to measure the physical characteristics of the substrate. So those are the parameters they are measuring. If they don't have the facility to measure the water holding capacity or air capacity, they are relying on the particle size test. So you see in the middle, on the bottom, you see the stack of the sieves. So this was one of the photo I took. This was the like wood material we tested. So you can see, how much, the particle size at the different particle size parameters. So you can measure that, and you can correlate that to the airspace or water holding capacity. So customers wants to have like more drainage the soil or more higher water holding capacity, depending on where they are located and depending on what they're growing. Their needs are different. So we designed to meet their needs. And the third photo, you can see, this was a very interesting project I was involved in. Retail products. For the retail consumers, they have a very strong perception about the good soil. they believe dark soil is the best. Dark black soil is rich and the best soil. So they have a very negative perception about white wood. Piece of white wood means bad soil. So we tried to figure out the method to be utilized by the Operation QC lab to measure the white wood contents in the soil. That's for visual quality. So depending on the consumers or customers' needs or their perception, we also developed a new testing method too. So those are like, the types of tests what the quality control labs perform at the production. So any question, Paul?
If you're deciding, okay, I'm going to save some money by blending these components myself, then you're assuming some risk as a grower, and it's a good idea to take some of these kind of best practices that you're doing in a commercial substrate company and see what would apply to a grower. So, you mentioned pH and EC and like that 1 to 2 test. That's certainly very easy for somebody to have if they've got a calibrated pH EC meter. That would be something they could easily do. How about some of these physical property measurements? Kay, what do you think would be most important for a grower to be checking there?
I believe that the particle size test will be the good indicator. So I didn't put the photo of the road tab, but to do the particle size test. But that will be one because you don't want to have too much fine or too much coarse, or you want to shift one segments of the particles to the another, because that can cause huge drift or shift in the physical properties. And also bulk density might be one of the easy way to measure your physical quality of your soil. I have seen the bulk density and particle size are very good indicator for the bark, compost the bark quality. So and also finished goods as well. There is an easy test method. There is a box method. There is a 1 CF, box you can make with a stainless, steel box. And then there is a very specific test method, to have. So you can make 1 CF box of soil and weigh it, and then you can record. So you can monitor that the bulk density your product over time.
Okay, so a CF would be a cubic foot, and the bulk density would be the weight per cubic foot or per liter. I'm going to put a little plug in for one of my websites, which is backpocketgrower.org, and you can go onto there under training and under root substrates, and there are quality control procedures that growers can do for physical properties, and under the fertilizer and nutrients, there's, for example, the pH and EC testing methods as well. So all of these methods are very feasible to adapt for a grower, but the important thing is to do them consistently themselves, I think.
Yeah. Paul, I want to give you one quiz.
Oh, okay. That sounds scary. Go ahead.
If I'm mixing, my soil with all the ingredients for my crop production, I have not changed my lime source. I have not changed my peat, perlite, or bark, or vermiculite. I have not changed any source of those. It's the same. I'm ordering those materials same, but my pH measurements are up and down. What's wrong?
I'll give you one scenario. Let's say that you've got one source of purchasing in peat, for example, and one source of lime. But you might be bringing in truckloads, and you get one batch of peat that may have different amounts of acidity, or there are other chemical properties, different amount of buffering on that batch of peat or bark, and that can certainly cause a difference. So that's one of the possible causes of variability.
That's good. That's good possibility. You just mentioned about the natural variations in the peat moss. sphagnum peat. So that's one of the possibility. But most of times what I have seen and what I have found, I mentioned about the manufacturing capability, right? If they are using small hopper to dose limestone, sometimes that hopper is empty or you are running the mixing line, or the hopper is full, but there can be, stuck, some limestone got like stuck and, it's not dosing the limestone as you expected. So if you are mixing your own, yes, monitoring pH and EC, but if you see some, unexpected up and down, please check your hopper. That's, most of the cases I have seen so far.
Nutritional problems and pH problems, EC problems, they aren't always the fault of the substrate. And
Yeah.
so, one of the things that I'm seeing is in our online courses, for example, is just increasing number of growers who are using pretty much 100% core, for example, or
Yeah.
maybe they're using wood fiber and a lot of wood fiber. Now, both
Yes.
of those components are great components. They really
Mhm.
are excellent
Yeah.
in terms of wettability and air porosity and so on. But if you've got very little peat or bark or limestone in there, they are not very pH buffered. And
Right.
so that means that more of that responsibility for nutrient management and pH management is in the hands of the grower.
Right. Yes, I agree.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Kay. I think we've touched on some really great topics here around substrate quality, and I really appreciate the chance to spend some time with you.
Yes,
Thank you for
thank
sharing
you.
your expertise.
Yes, thank you so much.